Our story begins just outside the Hall of Justice. Andrew Bennett, a powerful vampire, is doing everything he can to avoid the sun, his body wrapped tightly in bandages. But he has no choice. He has to move during daylight because he's being hunted. He doesn't know who's after him or how close they are, but he can feel them getting nearer with each passing day. Desperate, he makes his way toward the Hall of Justice, the only place left to turn for help. But just as he crosses the street, bam! A car slams into him, sending him crashing onto the pavement. People rush to help, but as his bandages come loose, sunlight scorches his exposed skin. He starts to burn right there on the street. Lucky for him, there's someone inside who notices, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern. Seeing a man burst into flames outside, Hal uses his ring to create a protective shield around Bennett and pulls him inside the Hall of Justice. Once inside, Bennett is given time to recover. But as soon as he wakes up, he has only one thing to say: no one is safe. He insists that he needs to speak with the entire Justice League immediately. There's a war coming, and it could spell the end of the world as they know it. Unfortunately, most of the League is off-planet. The only ones left behind are Hal Jordan and one of the Wonder Twins, Zan. Hal, never a fan of babysitting duty, isn't exactly thrilled by Zan's presence, but that's the least of his concerns right now. Bennett quickly gets to the point. Does the Justice League know about Mary, Queen of Blood? Hal knows the name, but not much else. What he doesn't realize is that Andrew Bennett was once married to Mary. Over time, their paths diverged, and they became enemies. But more importantly, Mary wasn't just a vampire. She was the leader of all vampires, the one figure keeping their world from descending into chaos. Her word was law, and she was the only thing stopping vampires from going on a full-scale killing spree against humanity. But now, Mary is dead, murdered. And with her gone, the vampires are no longer restrained. A war is brewing, and Bennett fears it may already be too late to stop it. Of course, Hal isn't going to take all of this at face value. He has to ask the obvious question: did you kill her? After all, if Bennett and Mary were enemies, he would be a prime suspect. But Bennett swears it wasn't him. He spent weeks chasing down leads, tracking whispers, and following every rumor he could find. And all of them, every single one, pointed to one place: the Legion of Doom. Breaking in wasn't going to be easy. But as a vampire, Andrew Bennett had an advantage. He could slip in unnoticed. He needed to find out why they had killed Mary. What was the reason behind her murder? But when he finally got inside, the only thing waiting for him was carnage. Bodies, dozens of them. The Legion of Doom had been wiped out. Whoever had taken Mary's life had gotten here first, and they left nothing but a bloodbath in their wake. There was no doubt this was the work of vampires. Mary's death wasn't random. It was the opening move of something much bigger, a revolution. Andrew feared this was the beginning of a war against humanity. But after seeing what the Legion had been planning, he realized this wasn't just about war. This was extermination, a full-scale genocide. And the vampires had a plan to make it happen. They were going to block out the sun forever, ensuring they could roam freely, without fear of daylight. Understanding the gravity of what he had uncovered, Andrew knew he had to get out fast. He needed to warn someone, but before he could escape, someone stepped into his path. Lex Luthor. Holding a wooden stake, Lex was ready to kill. He thought Andrew was one of them, one of the monsters responsible for this massacre. But he quickly realized that while Andrew was indeed a vampire, he wasn't aligned with the killers. He wasn't here to hurt anyone. Lex, however, was in no shape to leave. He was dying. But before he succumbed to his wounds, he handed Andrew an address. If Andrew wanted to fight back, if he wanted to stop this was where he needed to go. Luthor didn't know who was behind all of this, but he knew one thing: they had to be stopped. Andrew understood that convincing the Justice League wouldn't be easy. They weren't going to trust a vampire. But Luthor had a plan. He took a vial of his own blood and handed it to Andrew. "Show them what this can do," he said. "Show them how it can win this war." Before Andrew could leave, Luthor made one final request. He didn't want to be turned. The vampires had spared him only to torture him, to extract everything they needed before discarding him. He was of no further use to them, and he refused to become one of them. He asked Andrew to end his life, not with fangs, but with his own hands, to ensure he could never return. With his last breath, Luthor whispered, "Let the world know it was me who saved them." As Andrew fled, he was pursued. Gorilla Grodd, Cheetah, both vampires now, both relentless in their hunt. One of them caught him, slamming him against a wall. In desperation, Andrew took some of Luthor's blood and injected it into his attacker's eye. Instantly, the vampire was reduced to ash. That's when Andrew understood. Luthor's blood wasn't just a tool, it was a weapon. A weapon that could change the course of this war. A weapon that gave humanity a fighting chance. Using daylight to his advantage, Andrew moved carefully, avoiding their agents, never sure if he'd make it to his destination. But he had to try. And that's how he ended up here, standing before the Justice League. Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, listened to Andrew's story but remained skeptical. It was a lot to believe. And at the end of the day, Andrew was still a vampire. Why should they trust him? Andrew admitted he had no proof, no witnesses, nothing to back up his claims. It all sounded impossible. Then everything changed. Without warning, one of the Wonder Twins was restrained by a Green Lantern construct. Hal Jordan's expression darkened, and that's when the truth was revealed. Hal Jordan was one of them. Somehow he had hidden his vampirism, shielding himself from sunlight using his Green Lantern ring. He had kept his secret for who knows how long, and now he used that same ring to produce an intense burst of sunlight, enough to reduce Andrew Bennett and the Wonder Twin to ashes. As Andrew was destroyed, Hal Jordan made a call. "To my master," he said, "the traitor has been taken care of. No one else knows." The world remained oblivious. There was no war, no vampire uprising. Not yet. And when the time came, humanity wouldn't see it coming. But deep within the Batcave, later that night, Bruce Wayne arrived home to find Alfred waiting for him, with a message. A message detailing everything. Before heading to the Hall of Justice, Andrew had stopped at Wayne Manor. This was the address Lex Luthor had given him. Because if anyone could stop the vampires from taking over the world, it was Batman. And he had the weapon to do it. Lex Luthor's blood,